The first thing I want to do, though, is I want to go through briefly the chronology of the week. I used to do this at the Passover, but it takes a good chunk of the time. And I think it's important for us to understand and remember the days, because the days are important, how this unfolds. The Lord would have come into Bethany on Friday night, Nissan 8, and he would have stayed there through the Sabbath until evening on the 9th. So in the evening, it would be Nissan 9. And after the Sabbath, a meal was prepared in honor of Yeshua, and Lazarus was there. He had been raised from the dead, and people were coming from all over just to see him and marvel, because this man had been dead for 4 days. And nobody comes back from the dead after 4 days, because the body begins to break down. And Mary anointed Yeshua on the head and the feet at this meal. And Judas complained. He was all, beside himself, because this was a waste of money, but he was a thief. He was concerned about the money that was spent rather than the good thing that she had done for the Lord. And he's rebuked by the Lord, and Mary is defended. And this kind of sets his heart in motion. Judas is beginning to harden his heart. He's starting to set himself against Yeshua. And then Sunday morning, Nissan 10, this is the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. This is the day that the Passover lambs are set aside, and they begin a 4-day examination to see if it is without spot or blemish. Then Monday morning, Nissan 11, Yeshua curses the barren fig tree, and he cleanses the temple. Tuesday, Nissan 12, they plot to kill Yeshua, but they say not on the feast day. Wednesday is Nissan 13, and 13 is also the number of Ahava, love. They prepared the new covenant Passover in the upper room. Wednesday evening, Nissan 14, the new covenant is instituted as a new Passover. Yeshua accepts the cup of judgment and suffering in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he is arrested by the Jewish authorities. He's tried by night illegally and having been betrayed by Judas. Thursday morning is Nissan 14. This is preparation day, when the people are getting the remaining leaven out of their home, and the lambs are being prepared to go to the temple for slaughter. Messiah is sentenced to die by the Romans. He is beaten, humiliated, and scourged, and carries his cross to Golgotha and is crucified. His body is taken down and hurriedly placed in a nearby tomb of Joseph of Arimathea just before sunset, because this is the Mosaic Passover, and if they are not done and cleansed from dealing with a dead body, they cannot keep the Passover. That is the primary reason why there is a second Passover, because in the Torah, there were some people who had been dealing with a dead body, and the Passover had come, and they thought it was unfair that they would be precluded from participating. And Moses went to the Lord, and the Lord agreed, and he said that anybody who was not fit, not in a right place to keep it, that 30 days later they could keep it a second Passover, so that they would not be outside of that ordinance. Let's see, where are we? We're on Thursday. Okay, so Messiah died at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the lambs were being slain in the temple, and his blood then ratified the new covenant that was given the night before. Friday is Nissan 15, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And this was a day that is not a regular Sabbath, because they were able to cook, they could walk around, they could do what they wanted. They weren't restricted by all the Sabbath laws, but they were not allowed to conduct business or do agriculture, anything that was like their occupation, okay? And so there was to be like no labor. So the women were not able to go and purchase the spices that were needed to make the ointment to anoint the body of Messiah, because there was no merchandising, there was no selling until after the weekly Sabbath. So there was 2 days that they had to wait before they could get those spices, because it was pounds of ingredients that they needed. And Friday night was the first day, and Friday day was the first day in the tomb, and Friday night was the second night. Saturday, Nissan 16, was the weekly Sabbath. The disciples were home and they were mourning. And Saturday evening, Nissan 17, the women went finally to purchase the needed items to prepare the spices for burial. So there is an urgency now, because the body begins to break down, beginning the 4th day of death. And this was going to be the 3rd day. Saturday was the 2nd day in the tomb, and Saturday night was the 3rd night. So sometime between sundown Saturday and before dawn on Sunday morning, Nissan 17, Messiah was raised. And it was the 1st day of the week, the 3rd day of death, just as he said, 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So this day was the same day that Noah's Ark rested on the mountains of Ararat. And Ararat means the curse reversed. I think that's astounding right there, because this is the curse of the garden reversed. Yeshua took away the sin, took away the penalty. And so this is also the Feast of First Fruits, when the first sheaf of barley is harvested by the priest and carried up to the temple. And then it would be lifted up and waved before the Lord, a promise of a full harvest. So Messiah was raised and then ascended to the Father the same day to be presented as the first fruits from the dead, the promise of a full harvest. The Pharisees and the Sadducees argued about the day of first fruits. Should it be observed the day after the first day of unleavened bread, which was considered a kind of Sabbath, or was it the weekly Sabbath? So the Pharisees believed in the resurrection of the dead, but they observed, and still do, the first fruits the day after unleavened bread, which is always Nissan 16. The Sadducees did not believe in the resurrection of the dead, and they, however, rightly observed the Feast of First Fruits on the day after the weekly Sabbath of Passover week. So that would always be on a Sunday. And when you look at the text and you read the whole text in Leviticus 23, it bears out, because when you go through the whole calculating of Pentecost, the Feast of Weeks, right? When you calculate it out according to what the scripture says, it's always going to fall out on a Sunday. And you cannot get 50 days onto a Sunday every time if you pick the 16th of Nissan, because that's a floating day. That could be in the middle of the week, and that would never work out right. Let's see. So today, the rabbinical tradition is the same as the Pharisees. They always keep the 16th of Nissan, and that would nullify the fulfillment of the feast for Messiah, and he had to fulfill them all. So the Sadducees had it right, Pharisees have it wrong, and as believers, we shouldn't be following that tradition, and we should know better. But unfortunately, a lot of Messianics do keep the 16th anyway.